All right, it's 4 o'clock. We'll call our Utility Commission meeting to order. John, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Mulkey. Here, sir. Thank you. Mr. Boardman. Here. Mr. Johnson. Here. Mr. April.
Here.
And I notice that Council President Mr. Earl and Judge Cruz are present, and obviously I am.
Thank you. Public comment period. At this time, the commission would recognize members of the public who've indicated a desire to address the commission. Do we have anybody interested in addressing the commission? All right, seeing none. Commissioner, council, and staff comments. Commissioners, anything before we get going? Mr. Earl, council, anything?
Nothing at this time.
All right, staff?
Just one, Kathy.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce our new regulatory compliance specialist who just started today, Kathy White.
Oh,
Hello,
Hello, Kathy.
Welcome.
All right, Bob, you've got presentation of employee service.
yes, we have two. We have Dean Bowman, who's been here for 25 years. Started here in 1989 as summer help, worked in 89, 90, and 91. And either he just wore us down or we decided he's worth keeping. We put him on as a lineman.
Just wasn't going to leave.
And yeah, so he spent 4 years in apprenticeship and then became a journeyman lineman and has been here ever since, doing a great job.
Thanks.
Congratulations. And we have Ray Burrell. Ray actually started in the water department as a laborer and then moved into the electric department as a laborer. And then when the power plant was constructed, he trained to be one of the plant operators, so he operates the power plant. He does a lot of the work with stores, numerous other things. The latest thing he's doing now is he has been trained on the cross connect for the water department. So he'll be doing the water meter installs and that training to help Dave catch up. Ray's been here for 20 years. Congratulations, Ray.
Okay. Excess energy buyback rate, Bob. You gave us a nice write-up. Did you want to walk us through it?
Yeah, we can walk through what we have here. And basically what it amounts to is, out of fairness to our customers, we don't want to continue to pay the solar customers the same rate that we do now. What we do is we buy the energy from them. If it's under a 20 kW or 20 kW customer, we buy the energy from them at the same rate that we're selling it to them. Well, obviously, you can't make money doing that. So what we're looking at doing is changing that rate so that anything over, any excess generation that they have will be bought at our avoided cost rate, which means whatever we're paying for our wholesale energy. Also, along with that, we were looking at doubling our fee that we charge monthly to every customer. And in doing those two issues, we had two different entities, Renew Wisconsin and Clean Wisconsin, who filed to intervene in our case. And since I sent all this information out, we have been talking with the two groups and think we've arrived at probably a solution where they will both remove themselves from intervening in our case. Regardless, I think we want to go ahead what we were planning, which was to buy that excess energy at a lower rate. But I think we'll end up doing, instead of, we were proposing a 5-year transition for the existing customers, we'll probably make that a 10-year transition where they'll start out this year getting paid the same rate. We'll reduce it 10% per year over the next 10 years. Any new customers that come online would be under the new rate immediately. Now, the larger customers over the 20 kW, which we've got one, possibly another one coming online, they already pay or get paid for that energy at the reduced rate. So that's negotiated with them. The reason we were considering or debating whether we wanted to continue with this or not, if we do continue and if it's a contested case, it could cost us another probably $15,000 to file this case. But like I said, I think we're to the point where, in working with them, that we expect this to go away anyway. So I guess it's just an update.
So this is an outgrowth of our rate case request
Correct.
to put the rate increase in place, and embedded within that was a change to our existing solar tariff. And you had two people who intervened. One was about solar, one was about something else.
The fixed cost.
Yeah, so really one intervener on the solar side, and we haven't really addressed as a commission an overall policy related to solar tariffs or making changes to the existing solar tariff. So the question to us, I guess, as a commission is, do we move forward as is with the rate case? Do we pull this out and look at a policy related to it? Do we roll with the compromise that Bob's working on already? What's the thoughts on the group? John?
I'll just remind the commission and the at-home audience, I abstained from the original vote because I had a business relationship with some of the solar electric customers prior to joining the commission, and felt it was inappropriate for me to cast a vote one way or the other. I am curious, Bob, you mentioned there's a compromise with the parties that may file to be part of the PSC process. Can you tell us what the compromise was on the solar
I
rate?
think go to a 10-year.
To go to a 10-year.
10-year phase out instead of the 5-year phase
And the
out.
reason I ask that is because the low end of their participation in the process is about $6,000 a cost to us. Could be as high as 15, as you just noted.
Right.
At the 783, what it's costing us a year now for this, we'll call it a subsidization, for lack of a better word. That's 7.5 years at $6,000.
Right.
At 15 grand, I mean, that's 20-some years. Do we really want to spend 20 years worth of revenue so that in the 21st year we get it back? That would be a debate point for me.
One other thing that we had too, along with that cost, was about a $2,000 a year potential cost. There's another option that the customers would have that would end up costing another $2,000, or reducing our revenue by another $2,000 per year. And really don't want to get into the specifics of that. But
My question is simply, yes, I understand that. Let me rephrase it. Yes, I understand that the solar electric customer is selling power back to us at the retail residential rate, which does not allow for them to be paying an appropriate proportion of the cost of distribution and maintenance of the plant. No arguments there at all. A rate case that adjusts that over time seems like an appropriate thing to do. No argument there. But it's $783 a year, where we could be looking at somewhere between 8 and 20 years to get it back if we, in fact, push this through and have to pay PSC additional monies to administer a protest. Does not seem like a good use of our
but it's
cash.
actually closer to $3,000 per year with an extra $2,000 on there.
Well, then I guess you'd have to explain that to us.
Yeah, I'd say there's an option that they have, like I say, just to not elaborate on that here, but the total cost that really the avoided cost would be, or the additional cost that we could see is about $3,000 per year. So even if it did cost us $15,000, we're looking at 5-year payback. The other issue is, right now, there's 17 solar customers. If we wait another 4 or 5 years to address this, there might be 30 or 40, and it just, the problem continues to multiply.
That's the issue in my mind, is the customer base that's already made an investment in solar today, for me, as John points out, the dollar amount is negligible to us today to make a change on the installed base. What I'd like to make sure we ensure is that new installations going forward, at the very least, are done at the avoided cost concept as opposed to the net metering concept, so that the problem doesn't get bigger.
And I can't make an argument against that, other than to say, why don't we just grandfather the 17? They were there, they became part of a net metering relationship with Marshfield Utilities under the rules at the time they made the financial decision, the environmental decision, whatever their driving factor was at that time. Why not just grandfather them? You're talking about less than $800 a year.
Would
Or
that be-
$3,000.
Would that create a
Well, I
billing
mean,
problem?
without knowing what that number is, I
Well,
can't account for that.
It is something that we would have to continue to bill forever in a different method. I guess I look at, we could grandfather them, but how is that fair to the other customers?
Because
And-
the rules that existed at that time are
But-
no longer the rules that exist. I
But
mean,
there's nothing
an
that
argument
ever
could be made
guarantees
for
that the rules won't change. And with any investment any one of us makes, there's no guarantee that the rules aren't going to change for that
I
investment.
grant you have a point there. I grant you have a point there. I'm just throwing out alternatives. It seems
Right.
like an awful small amount of money to worry about those 17 customers.
Mhm.
The next 35, I agree with you. That can be a concern. That can become a real number that has a disparity with the way we deal with other residential customers.
The other thing is by going the 10-year cycle, we are consistent with other, the investor-owns are doing at this point. All the other large investor-owns are doing that same thing, a 10-year phase-in. And they say the small investor-owned is not, I assume that's Madison Gas and Electric. They're the only small investor-owned, other than Superior, I guess, Superior Water and Light. But, so that would make us consistent with the other utilities as well. We are the first municipal utility to file this. So it's only investor-owns that are doing it so far.
Well, I think it makes a whole lot of sense to do it over 10 years and eliminate these two regulatory bodies from our rate increase request. And
Now, the one that objected to the flat rate, the monthly service change, that's going to go away anyway, right?
The indication is that they did not realize that our service fee was so low.
Yeah.
So even doubling it, it's
So
still
that
lower
one,
than
that one
many
has
others.
nothing to do with the solar issue that we're discussing. That may or may not go away. It may persist regardless.
Right.
And even the intervener is not, fine. If we continue to make distinctions, they're not pushing back on the avoided cost concept. Really, they're just trying to defend the existing installed customers from a sudden change to the rules.
Right. And the comment they made was that they understand the need for the transition. So
Yeah.
they understand it too. It's just how you go about making that transition.
I think it was just last week, Nevada their Public Service Commission had a ruling on this related to the big utility out there, and they just made the change for avoided cost also.
okay, from net metering.
From net metering to avoided cost.
Mhm.
Yep. The news release I read didn't say anything about how they dealt with the existing customers, which is a much more substantial number out there than we
Larger
have here.
base. You bet.
Bet it is.
Okay, so we have to give Bob some direction on how to handle this with the Public Service Commission. And it seems to me our options are proceed the way it was originally filed, go with the 10-year compromise that he's working on as a proposal, or pull it out completely and just move forward and pick up the solar debate as a separate issue.
Well, I would propose that we would go to the second option that you
The
mentioned and go with
the
the 10-year
compromise.
compromise.
Okay?
I would, that's
George,
where I am, yeah.
consensus there?
That sure makes a lot of sense.
Where do you come down on it, Alan?
That makes sense, I think, between the three.
John, any
I'm gonna
thoughts?
abstain
You're going to
anyway.
abstain again? Okay. Do we need to vote, or do you just need a consensus of direction?
That's all I know.
Okay. All right. Solar update. Didn't we just do that?
Kind of. Nick?
No, this is the bigger overall picture.
I just put together an update for you guys, just for your information as far as, and we're actively looking at community solar and trying to figure out a way to make it work. As you can see, unfortunately, we're still not much further ahead than we were before, but we're still being active and trying to hit every angle we can to make it advantageous to move forward. So,
Is anybody familiar, excuse me, is anybody familiar with the Medford Community Solar? There's a big area there as you go up there. I've always been curious about that.
yeah, those are cooperative-based,
Uh-huh.
cooperative utilities, so they're retail rates. They typically provide retail rates as the payback to enroll, and the retail rates are usually 12, 13, 14 cents a kilowatt hour. So their customers can enroll and they'll get a payback in that 10 to 15-year window because they have such higher rates.
Is that the size of the solar panels that we're looking at, or are we looking at a bigger?
It's looking.
Operation.
I think,
I don't know what size that one is.
yeah, I'd only be guessing off the top of my head. Whatever our customer base will support is what we want. The bigger
Okay.
you can go, the price gets better as you
Sure.
go, it goes down actually per watt. 2-megawatt system would be awesome because that would, that would drive down the rates quite a ways. But if we don't have enough customer involvement, plus if we can't make the numbers work, you're gonna end up with something much smaller, and then unfortunately the payback goes up longer. So it's.
This kind of goes back to some of that strategic planning discussion that we had, where we've got these really almost artificially low wholesale rates that were negotiated a long time ago. And so as staff works on trying to make an economic case for this solar energy that everybody knows is coming, we're really challenged because we've got these really low wholesale rates that are gonna work for us up until whenever that contract expires, 10, 15 years out, and we can't predict beyond that point. So to a certain degree, at some point, we're gonna be asked to make a leap of faith on what the future is gonna look like, even though it may not make the most economic sense today. Personal thought there.
If we wait 10, 12, 15 years, whatever it is, before the anvil falls on our wholesale rates, we're going to be competing with other entities and other technologies at that time, and they're all unknowns. On a personal level, I favor the all of the above approach. Get a little bit of everything. Minimize your risk because you have some exposure and some experience in all the potential technologies that are economically viable. That allows you to spend a little bit of money now as a buffer to the future. The work that Nick has done leading the community solar initiative, we're a year into this now. It's been very thoughtful. It's been very considerate of what do you want to do versus does it make sense. At some point, we're going to have to pull the trigger, which is either say, no, we're going to walk past this opportunity, or yes, we're just going to bite the bullet and spend the money. I think we'd be better off figuring out when that day has to be, and then seeing what the market forces and market costs are as we approach that day. From a strategic standpoint, Mike, I think that's the better guidance to give them at this time.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd answer that question.
Can I throw my 2 cents in?
Please.
Yeah.
I think the date is 2019. I think that's when the tax breaks go away. I think right now we're still seeing a decline in the prices of solar systems. I think that decline is not nearly as steep as it was a few years ago. So I think it's starting to get down to the bottom. I mean, they're still trying to get more efficiencies, as I outlined in the document, but 2019 is when that tax credit goes away. So I don't know. I don't think the market can go ahead and make up for that tax break difference.
Interesting concept.
Do you think the market will be flooded with panels and equipment?
I think right now it is, and I think that we're gonna, before the end of last year, there was uncertainty if the tax credit was going to be continued. So there was a lot of people pushing to get their systems going. So right now I think that there's a peak going on, and I think that's gonna go into 2017. And I personally think that there's gonna be somewhat of a drop off a little bit for the next year or two until we get to 2019 when you see another push to get that tax break.
The tax break was intended to get more people to buy, to make more manufacturing, to bring the price down, and that has been working. The price has continued to come down. So it's just a matter of does the tax break go away before the prices come down enough to make it economically feasible? Where's it gonna be? And like Nick mentioned, the big thing is how high are your rates? If you're competing with 14, 15 cent rates, or even in some cases, like in Germany, they're up closer to 25 and 30 cents per kilowatt hour. That makes it very economical to put in solar. For us, it's going to take a while.
I think the key takeaway from us as a group, from our strategic planning, and also from the work that Nick is doing is we want to be a leader in the community on a community-based solar project for all the good economics and that come from the community scale solar as opposed to the individual residential scale solar, and also just to be a leading community. So I think they're on the right track, and we want to keep that in the forefront, that it's something we want to do when it's the right time.
Yeah, I agree. The other point that Nick made in his initial presentation almost a year ago that I think is worth reinforcing is that non-homeowners get to participate in the community solar program. where today there's no avenue for that participation. And I think that's important to include as many people as want to be. The apartment renter is just as important a customer to us as the property owner.
And even those homeowners who can't afford to put in a system of their own, it'll help them get involved as well. Or their house isn't situated in such a way that it's suitable for a solar array. So yeah, it does get everybody involved. I think that's a good point.
Okay. Anything else on this? Thanks, Nick. Job orders, Bob.
We have one job order. It's for a single-phase overhead to underground conversion on North Peach. It's for Oak Grove Terrace in the amount of $62,361. And this is one of those job orders that we've been trying to get done for quite a few years to get the whole system cleaned up, get it underground. The customer is also committing to a large investment to match the facilities that we're putting in
Large investment in
converting.
non-electrical infrastructure?
No, putting in their, redoing their side as well,
Okay.
to get all, to tie into what we'll be putting in.
This is just phase 1 of 3 or 4 phases.
Oh,
Are we looking at $250,000 to do this?
Yeah, probably by the time we're done, yes.
Over what period of time?
But right now, we're forecasting a 3-year.
Okay.
We've done some other mobile home parks as well
Mhm.
in the past, the same type of thing.
Well, it's good heads up to know that there's going to be more pieces of this.
Yeah.
well, lets them build the budget too. Is there a motion to approve the job order?
I'll make the motion.
Harry, is there a second?
I'll second.
John? Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bills and payroll.
Bills have been reviewed and certified proper for payment.
You did great.
Thank
She didn't even have to read it.
No.
Did you practice that this morning?
No, I didn't.
Do we have a motion to approve the bills and payroll? George, second? Second. Mr. Johnson. Questions, comments, discussion on the bills and payroll? John?
Just curious, the 51 grand for M1 gas management, is that the actual gas?
Oh, UGM, yeah,
Yeah, page 2 of
Yeah.
2. Is that the
Yeah.
actual
Yeah,
gas?
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Is that part of the big
It's-
project that you warned us about?
The testing.
Yes.
yeah,
Well,
running.
that actually might be more running in the market.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it could include as well, we pay them a monthly fee for the service to purchase our gas.
So it's not all
that's
for
probably in
gas.
there too.
Okay. But
majority of it is gas.
Essentially, it's the consumption of M1.
Correct.
Okay, it's not some other service or consultation they were providing.
Well, it could be a combination of both. Like say, there is some monthly fee that we
Shows
pay
up
them,
twice.
a service fee that we get billed every month.
Okay,
And
well-
then there's also the gas consumption. But typically, when we are running, then the gas is the bulk of the cost.
Fair enough.
The fee is a very small percentage of that number.
Right.
This isn't part of that 5-year test that we have to do.
No, this would be normal day-ahead market participation, real-time market participation.
Just 2 more questions if I could. Okay, 3 more questions. We bought some IT stuff,
We bought a lot of IT stuff.
80 grand worth, or 80 plus grand worth, 83 grand worth. Are we done buying IT stuff?
I think that's the second half of the redundant project at that water treatment facility. It was 50% down for them to purchase the equipment, and then the final payment, the other 50% upon completion of the equipment delivered, and the equipment's all been delivered.
Yeah, okay, and I guess
So-
that's what I was asking.
Yeah, that
But
should,
in answer your question, no, you're never done buying.
no, we're never done.
Well, and I want to know how you
Yeah.
get a $5,000 line item. How did you get an exact $5,000 number?
Oh, that's a
prepaid.
That's a,
prepaid.
yeah,
we
is that
pay
for
them
priority?
monthly,
Yeah.
We pay them a fee up front, and then we get a reduced rate, and then as they whittle it down, then we pay them another 5,000.
You get them on retainer.
Right.
Okay, very cool,
Yeah.
very cool. 'Cause I was going to say, that must be a really nice tower sitting in somebody's
Right.
office. TMI coating, are we done paying for the painting of the tower? Is this the last one we're going to say?
No, there's another one.
Is it about the same amount?
94,000.
Is that just the logo?
And then, no, it's more than the logo.
Okay.
And then there's a retainer of about 30,000.
I am curious, and you can tell me offline what the logo costs, because I'm just like that.
8,000.
8,000, put the
It's
logo.
really not as bad as I thought it would be.
You know, the economic development guys, we can have a chat with them about promoting the city for them.
Any sense for whether that's gonna come in on budget, that project?
There was, it's really, really close to budget. It went over time-wise, but they didn't work when it rained, so we didn't incur any costs. I think like within $500 of the bid.
That would
So
be
it's
pretty
really
close.
I was gonna say.
It looks great.
On that
It
large.
looks great, yes.
Yeah.
It looks swell. Yeah.
1%?
Last item, and this is just a request, could we have a future, educate the commission, couple of minutes at some future meeting where you can tell us the Wisconsin Public Service Corporation bill that appears every month, it's a combination of power, M1, and substations. Could we get some insight as to how that breaks out? What does it cost us to do which piece? I understand one of them is consumptive, but, you know, we always list it as substations. Are we paying something for our facilities and their
It's our
substation?
cost,
Just
isn't it?
some piece in the future
That's-
where you explain it.
Yeah, that dollar amount that's not there is the wholesale power bill. That's
That's
not.
the actual bill.
That's the bill. The reason, the description has, sometimes we will get work, or bills from public service that might deal with substation work. Really, we don't have that happen anymore like it used. We used to use them a lot when we did projects, we would work with them. But as of a couple of years ago, they have stopped doing that for their customers. So we could probably modify that to remove that, just make it power bill.
There's two additional charges we see from them. One is for a backup spare transformer for our 24/9 line that feeds Enbridge. We pay a quarterly fee. And then the second piece is a data forwarding agreement. Whenever M1 runs, they take the data from the meter and they have to send it down to MISO. They're the one that's pushing it through, so MISO knows how much power we're producing. And those are some fees that we pay, but they're very
They're minimal.
small. Yeah, hundreds of
Okay.
dollars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds right. Okay.
So yeah, that line item typically will be, in this case, so that looks familiar to the number that it's 100% wholesale power bill.
And my last question would be concerning payroll. Was the overtime mostly because of the storms? Is that a reasonable approximation of what the storms cost us in overtime?
Yeah, we had quite a bit of overtime with that, so I would guess the bulk of that was tied to that storm.
Thank you.
Other questions? We have a motion and a second to approve the bills and payroll. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of previous meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes? Thank you, Alan. Second by Harry. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Operations and financial reports.
The operations, I was going to highlight that we're finished with the Grant Water Tower, but we already talked about it.
And it's looking good.
Looking good, yes. So, I don't, any questions on anything else with that?
The Open Street project, where's that at?
It's working with a contractor right now. There's been a few issues that we're working with them to get cleaned up.
Okay.
And we've got an agreement with them. It's
They
been
started on
signed.
that today.
They're starting on the cleanup today.
Big issues or just?
Some questionable issues that we're having some testing done to verify if it is a big issue or not, or if it's okay as done.
Okay. The only reason I asked that, because it looks like it's pretty complete as far as,
Right.
there's concrete down and everything else, so.
Right.
I mean, are we under the impression that this is finished except for fixing a couple things, or?
No, there's 7 locations where they have to dig up the services yet and then make repairs to those. Some of the connections just, I guess, weren't done as they should have been done. So they've had some leaks, and now as part of the agreement, they're gonna go back and dig up the remaining ones that have not failed and repair them, or verify that they're good, and inspect and repair and replace those.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And they've extended the warranty for 2 more years on one section.
What's the timeline on that work?
They started
Yes.
today, they're hoping to be done with the service reinstatement early this week. Then they'll have to pour the concrete, and that'll be a little bit weather dependent, but either late, end of this week or early next week.
Are our customers you're having to run alternate water supplies again, are you?
There will be no temporary water alternate supplies, but there will be some outages while they do this repair during the day.
Contractors working with the
Thank you.
You know about how long those would be? How many hours? Half a day?
So it's-
All right. Thank you.
Questions on the operations report, and again, Bob, this is just for my education. You note here on the AMI piece, we still need to order about 1,000 polyphase meters. When do you anticipate that order going? When are we going to see the bill for that? And do you have some sense of how much it's going to be?
I know they've been doing some work with the polyphase to get them to work properly with the system.
Yes, you've mentioned that before.
Right. And that, I think you're getting near resolution on that?
Yeah, we're in the testing phase of their solution right now. We have put the meters in for order right now. There's a process. You have to go through what's called first article. So
Mhm.
they send you 4 meters to test. So to expedite, we put that request in, even though we may have to make some changes here. We're just trying to push the schedule where I can. As far as the cost, $200,000-300K.
Okay.
I think it's about
1,000's a lot of meters. And then there's the labor to go put them in.
Right.
Okay.
Follow up on that, are we getting close to being able to forecast we're done with this
Project?
Mhm. At least on the electric side, we're getting closer, but assuming that all tests out, whatever. Water, middle of next year?
Yeah, if there's, what was it, 2,500 meters left to put in, so roughly 2,500 hours.
24?
2,500 appointments, about an hour an appointment. So, yeah, we're sending out 75 letters a week, but not everybody's responding.
I think you guys said that was going to be a 5-year project.
Well, originally
By 5
from
years.
3.
My
Up
date
this
my
month.
date hasn't changed yet.
From when we started, 3 years would have been the end of this year.
There you go.
And actually, the electric meters, we've been putting them in for less than 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're forecasting the residential meters will be installed by the end of October.
Okay.
So Nick wins the competition.
Was there a bonus or something?
Handshake.
Right, yeah.
From our standpoint, is we are completely reliant on getting an appointment from the customer. We need to get in
Yeah.
their basement to change the meter. And that has been proving slightly difficult sometimes to coordinate.
And I understand that. Let's not forget that on the water side, there's other activities besides changing out the meter.
Right.
So, they're making the best of the opportunity to be inside the residence.
If we can have more people, we can do more work.
His name's Bob. You talked to him.
Yeah, well, we've already got Ray taking care of that.
That's good. One last question for you, Bob, also of the operations report. Your last paragraph, you mentioned you. Do you have a progress report on the executive director, or are you guys still punting that around?
Let's say we're just punting it around. No update as of yet.
Any other questions, comments on the operations and financial reports? Commission education item, infrared cameras.
Any questions on what Nick wrote up?
I delegated that to Tony, so.
Very interesting.
When how long ago did we buy did it say that in there, when we bought the first camera? 2008. We used to pay a company to come in and do this, and then the situation was, we do it once a year, and then if anything happened in between, you didn't have the equipment. So since we bought this equipment, it works out really well. Even if you suspect a problem, you can go out there with it, immediately find out what's going on, and we can run inspections whenever we want, at our convenience.
Yeah, and as it mentions in there, we use it for when Jim Benson does our home inspections, he uses it there. Plus, we've been using it during the AMI project for hot meters, things like that as well, so. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool stuff.
Great. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Harry's first, George is second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.